You got to dance. Oh yeah. Hello, welcome back to Skyfire Live. I am your host, Matt Sloan, CEO of Skyfire. Unfortunately, Ben is not joining us today. He is actually busy doing training, which is very exciting because it has been some time since we were able to do that. So Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. We've got Brandon Morris, our good buddy out from SERTC in Pueblo, Colorado. We're going to be talking about advanced drone use today in HAZMAT and Rail. So thank you guys all for joining us out there. And we look forward to getting your questions on the live stream. So just write them in as you see them. And hey, Ben, Ben's already chiming in from training land. So good to see you, buddy.
Ben's scared of my hair.
I think that must be it. Yeah. Well, he doesn't have the Corona beard to match the two of us. So I think that kind of scared him off a little bit.
Oh, this morning I would have outbearded you by half a mile. It was like,
but you mowed it down a little bit.
Oh yeah, weed eater.
Weed eater, yeah, that's how it goes. So, well, cool. Again, let's. He's very afraid. He says Ben's very afraid. Well, we'll see how much he can grow before our next week's Facebook Live. So. Hey, so let's, if you would just start by telling the people who don't know, just kind of fill us in. What is SERTC? Where are you located, and what all kinds of fun stuff are you guys doing out there?
That's a lot to include in an intro.
Well, how about just start with SERTC? What is SERTC?
So SERTC is the Security and Emergency Response Training Center. If you guys want to switch over to a different tab, it's SERTC.org. We're part of the National Domestic Preparedness Consortium that trains all the first responders around the country through FEMA. All of our programs are in NTED, which is the National Training and Education folks that have all of the education for first responders and a bunch of other stuff too, if you want to go there. It's firstresponders.us or firstresponders.gov. I can't remember which. It's ndpc.us and firstresponder.training.gov, I think.
We'll find it.
I got my facts straight, but
yeah. Sure.
Anyways, a ton of free training out there, and we're part of that group that does all of the training for first responders. We're the National Domestic Preparedness Consortium.
Awesome. And so several of the people, I see a couple on our live stream right now, were actually out there with us. Yeah, GD just chimed in. Go, Brandon. GD was one of the guys who was out there with us when we were there last year for our conference. Sadly, we are not there this year for our conference because we are not anywhere except in the virtual interwebs.
Because of the Rona.
Because of the Rona. We look forward to coming back out there. Oh, Darrow says, hey, one of the best conferences he's ever attended was at SERTC. I'm assuming he's talking about ours. So, hey, Mike.
I hope so.
You had, I'll pull up some of the video here in a little bit, but you guys have, what, 50 some square miles out there and what do you primarily do? Aside from the training part, what do you guys primarily do out at that site?
So we're 52 square miles, which to put it in perspective is about 2.5 times the size of Manhattan. A lot of territory out here, but our primary purpose is to make railroad and other transportation safer. So it's the TTC is the name of the site, which is the Transportation Technology Center. And the actual company that I work for is called the Transportation Technology Center Incorporated, which is just over the management of the site. And we're the ones that conduct all the tests and come up with all the tests and validate all the tests. And there's a huge list. We could go on for hours about all the different stuff that we do out here, but the primary purpose is to make transportation safer.
No, that's awesome. And so, a lot of the stuff that I think really attracted us to that site for the conference was the ability to actually light things on fire, which was pretty exciting. So you guys have a couple massive train derailments that we were able to basically spark off and get some guys hands-on experience fighting train fires and using drones for that purpose. So that was, very exciting. We also had some sort of close quarters stuff that we were doing. But what I wanted to talk about today was not so much about the Skyfire conference at SafeCon, but what are, you guys are doing a lot of testing out there with drone related stuff. You are the drone guy from SERTC, TTCI. So, one of the things that you've been working on recently is some crash reconstruction stuff, which I think is really interesting for our audience, because that's a lot of what a lot of what people are doing with their aircraft. So tell us a little bit about the projects you've been working on around that.
So that project, we're in the process of wrapping it up. So I can speak at a pretty high level about that. Basically, it was reconstructing accident scenes at nighttime using standard off-the-shelf equipment. We did comparisons between every level of drone you can think of initially, from the 210 all the way down to the Spark, and we did some leveling across all the cameras, and then we did the actual study over 3 months. I flew 100 and can't remember what the number is now, over 100 reconstruction missions at nighttime in varying weather, snow, rain, wind, various moon lighting conditions, various ground lighting conditions, and we were using all stuff that's easily accessible for first responders. So we're talking things like headlights, takedown lights, the scene lighting on a apparatus, and then the lights that you commonly see down the highway, we call them light towers. They're just basically a big generator with a light tower that sticks up in the air. So we did those constructions with just regular stuff. No, the goal was we don't want people to have to purchase extra stuff, which might make some folks watching angry. But it was just to establish a baseline for what's possible with what you already have in a cheap drone. So in the actual study, we used the Phantom 4 Pro V2, the Mavic 2 Pro, and then the Mavic Air in the study. So we flew every test in replicate 3 times. So every time we fly something, we duplicate that lighting situation, fly it with 3 different drones, and then move to the next one, move to the next one each night.
And I mean, is the purpose is to be able to show people standardized data? Is that right? About like no matter what drone you use, that data is going to be the same. Is that kind of the idea?
I can't really talk about what generated this test because of who was putting it on, but the goal of this was to bring drone testing into the same category as every other type of testing that we do in public safety and elsewhere. There's a lot of it is just people on Facebook flying a drone around and saying, this is the best drone you can buy, I promise you. Well, there's no data there, right? That's just a subjective opinion of that person. And that person isn't out there flying solar panels. That person's not out there flying emergency response scenes. They're not doing corridor mapping. They're not doing air monitoring. They're not doing all these things. So that might not be the best drone for them. And what we're trying to do is push the same level of review that is normally with a test like this into the drone world. So we have a standardized way that this is done. We same way we do every type of test that we do. It doesn't matter if it's crash testing for cars or trains or testing out a piece of electronic equipment. You want intensive review. You want duplicated data so that you can ensure the integrity of that data. And we're trying to bring all that into the drone world is what the main goal of this thing was. And it was just, we happened to do it during a low light collision scene reconstruction.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's awesome because, yeah, like you said, there's not a lot of good objective data out there about which drone is better than which drone for, particular use case. Obviously, our friends over at NIST are doing a lot on the sort of the pilot training and the actual capability of the aircraft to fly through certain situations. But there's a lot more to be done on sort of the data sets and analyzing data and things like that in different scenarios, particularly low light. That's one we get a lot of questions about because obviously a lot of car accidents, train accidents, everything else that happens at night. So being able to do that mapping at night is super important. So
that's always the big question too, because a lot of accidents occur at nighttime. And I think everybody watching has been stuck in traffic because of an accident. And I don't, a lot of people that aren't in the emergency response field don't understand why it takes so long. So they're honking and they're mad and road rage ensues and people are ramming each other and it's a big giant mess, right? And that's on our minds too. We're up there trying to get run over by everybody that's freaking out. We want to get off the scene just as fast as you want us off the scene. I promise you, we don't want to be there any longer than we have to be. So bringing it down to a little bit lower level, the goal of this is to ensure that after we've ensured life safety and mitigated the emergency, right? We're not going to drive people through there when there's a flammable atmosphere or poison in the air or something, right? But once we mitigate that, we want to get that scene clear as fast as possible. And right now, have you ever used a Faro scanner? The little LiDAR scanner?
I haven't personally, but I've seen them. Yeah.
So that takes time and it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of training to make sure that works. And then you can go on and submit that in court. What we're trying to do is take what's typically a 3 or 4 hour process for recreating these scenes. We're trying to cut that down to where you get on scene, launch the drone, you've got the data you need, and then you scrape the whole thing off the road. And I'm hoping for less than 30 minutes is what my goal would be there. After life safety and the emergency has been mitigated, 30 minutes later, scrape everything off the road and get it through, and we can clean up the rest of it later after we've got traffic flow.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. And I think that's the goal of everybody. And I know certainly a couple of the guys who have pinged already, like our buddy Mike Darrow from Michigan State Police, that's the primary use case that they're using them for right now. So it's great to have all that data. One of the things you just mentioned was air monitoring. And oh, hey Brian, him too. He's doing a lot of scene reconstruction as well. One of the things you mentioned was air monitoring by drone, and I think this has been a topic that comes up almost as much as scene reconstruction. You guys are the HAZMAT experts out there. So talk to me about that a little bit. Like, what have you done as far as air monitoring from a drone? I know there's some different products out there, and some new stuff that's on the horizon. But what's the kind of lay of the land there?
Is this sponsored by FLIR?
It is not. It's neither sponsored nor shunned by FLIR. So we are completely independent. Ooh, fun.
All right, so this wasn't even planned out. I just have this sitting on the shelf.
Sure.
A multi-ray. This is probably one of the most common used air monitors out there for public safety overall. And everybody's gonna start chiming in now. I was like, no, these guys are better. These guys are better. And I agree with you, but this is a very common piece of equipment, right? So basically the way an air monitor works is it sucks air through here. There's a bunch of chemical sensors inside. I'm flipping everybody off. A bunch of chemical sensors inside this unit, and it displays the reading on the face of this thing, right? And everybody thinks these are instant reading. Like, you're just going to walk in and it's instantly popping up and telling you, oh my gosh, there's chlorine in here, or your oxygen is dropping, right? And what people fail to understand about this, even in the public safety world, is that there's a big lag between the time it takes that to suck the product in, for the chemical reaction to take place on the sensor itself, and then the computer to analyze that and create a reading that works for your mind instead of just a raw voltage output. It's got to do all the conversions and create a manageable number for you so that you can understand it, right? That all takes time. And that can take up to 3 minutes. Sometimes longer. If you're talking about really heavy diesel fuels and things like that, it can take that. But a very common one is scene overhaul. So after we're done putting out the fire in a house, you got to go through and pull ceiling and look for hot spots and all that. And there's a lot of toxic chemicals that are involved in that. Well, those toxic chemicals are the hardest to read. And we're talking about things like cyanide. And everybody knows what cyanide is, right? If you've ever watched a spy movie, they pull their tooth out, bite it, and they foam at the mouth, and that doesn't really happen, by the way. But it is toxic to humans, right? Well, that chemical, typically across all of the sensors that I've used in my career, you're talking 3 minutes plus. So now put that on a drone. So you're flying along in a drone trying to do air monitoring from a drone for 3 minutes and see how long that takes, just in regular life, right? We're on a Facebook live stream. If I just sat here for 3 minutes, it would look awful, right?
Should we try it?
I mean, we're like 5 seconds right now, and you're right. But so imagine trying to do that for 3 minutes with a drone, and then now you add in the fact that it's pushing prop wash all down over your scene, right? And they're like, well, if we fly up in the sky, we don't have to worry about prop wash. There are very few chemicals that are lighter than air, very few. The moniker we use is 4H medic Anna. There's 4 H's and then medic Anna. That we use, and that's all the chemicals that are lighter than air. Everything else settles down around the ground, and everything we care about settles down around the ground. So now you take that prop wash and you put it close to the ground, and you get this. So there's been multiple studies done by multiple government agencies that show that the only place that you can do accurate monitoring of the air from a drone is dead center in the middle of that drone. If you're flying a quadcopter, now you get into hex and all that, things change. And therein lies my problem. Everything that I just mentioned is my problem with air monitoring from drones. And everybody thinks I'm anti-air monitoring from drones. I am absolutely not. I've been hurt in the past because I couldn't get good air monitoring readings. I had to go in and we just didn't understand what was there. I've got friends that were hurt. This is a big deal to most people that do HAZMAT. So I'm very pro air monitoring from a drone. But with current technology and taking older technologies like this, it will not work. Not just because of the sensors that are inside. Those work just fine, but it's the way that the people use the monitors. You have to understand this first, then understand how a drone operates, then understand the chemicals. And all three of those have to be understood in order to do that. And we don't get that.
Yeah, well, and I think that, there's definitely limitations to the technology, and we certainly have seen with other things around drones, just bolting two things together doesn't work necessarily. So is there, I mean, have you found a way, I know you've done some testing out there. Have you found a way to actually get a decent reading from a drone? Or, I mean, what about like actually just dropping the multi-ray in there? I mean, is that something that would be helpful in some way?
It's a nice setup, by the way. I appreciate that. So yeah, 3 years ago, maybe it's 4 years ago now. Yeah, 4 years ago now. We built a custom octocopter. Harris Aerial helped us out with the octocopter itself, and then I built a payload delivery system underneath to carry our area array, which is it's a 15-pound version of this that not only detects the 6 chemicals that this will, it also detects radiation, has a weather station on top, and it transmits all that information wirelessly over a mesh network. So you can imagine, I mean, it's a giant car battery with one of these things attached, plus a radiation sensor, plus a weather monitor on top. So I built it to deliver that payload. And the idea is that on a complex incident like a derailment or an industrial fire where we can't always get downwind to do air monitoring, because it's not saying we don't know what's there, you know, we need to get those readings. The idea is that we could fly the drone in, drop that air monitor off and fly away. And then for the next 24 hours, we don't have to do anything at all to that monitor. We just sit back and watch the readings come in on our laptop. And then now we can make our judgments based on actual data, not on, I think this is what's burning because that smoke is blue or purple or green or whatever. We actually know what chemicals are there, and then we can respond appropriately. So that was the idea behind the whole thing is access to areas of a site that we wouldn't have access to. You wouldn't fly a 29-inch bladed octocopter that weighs 53.5 pounds on every mission, right? It would have to be something pretty complex. But that was our solution to it. We flew 149 missions with that drone successfully, and we've since retired it. It flew on the old A3 setup, but it was a great drone. The drone itself still operates today. We'd have to get new batteries because they've swole since then. But it was a great drone, and it worked pretty well. And we proved our point. We proved that it could work. We did multiple demonstrations for the railroads, for government agencies, and it worked great. But as far as like actually flying that thing around and monitor through the air, it doesn't work. We've done multiple tests to prove that you just can't get any data either from this or a smaller size one of these or the larger drones like that. The only solution we could come up with that was reliable was just to drop the monitor and fly away.
Now, let me ask you this. So, because we're in the weeds now on HAZMAT, which is awesome. Are you able to confirm the presence of something and just not the parts per million or parts per billion with a, you know, like a multi-ray on a drone? Is that something that would be useful to just even know what's there, even if you can't get it?
The problem is the false negative.
Got it.
If you don't pick something up without really training on this, and I'm not talking about reading the owner's manual and running outside and flying it on a drone. I'm talking about actually training and getting experience on air monitors and how they operate. The fact that an air monitor doesn't pick something up means absolutely nothing.
Right.
It just means that it's not equipped to detect what's there. There could be a multitude of other things. So it's very important to understand how to do detection with this first, and then understand how the monitor works. So yeah, if you got a detection, great, it's there. We know it's there. The parts per million aren't going to be accurate. So you know the things that it can pick up are there, but the things that it can't pick up, those things that are heavier than air, that are settling down along the ground, those are the ones I really care about anyways.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Like the ultimate goal is to figure out how to avoid putting you in a spacesuit and sending you down there and potentially.
Because that's awful.
Right.
Everybody's complaining about wearing surgical masks. You know, imagine.
Yeah, no, hazmat guys are like, oh yeah, mask, that's nothing. I got it.
Come on. I've been in one of those for over 60 hours in and out. It's not fun. Heat stress is a problem. Stress on your body is a problem. Risk is a problem overall. We don't want to do that. We want this to work. It's just, we all need to come together and talk about it, right? We just can't just strap something on top of a drone. We need all the right people in the right room talking about this thing and then move forward, not just like, oh, look at this, buy this. And everybody starts doing it. I'll get in the room, talk about how to go forward. That will solve it.
No, absolutely. Well, I know you said, you mentioned FLIR, and that is something that I know they're working on, certainly the sippers, like the multi-ray. I've heard all kinds of stuff about optical gas imagery. And what's your view on optical gas? Do you think that's something that we could do with an aircraft?
Oh, yes, definitely. And there's other things we can do with an aircraft other than just the chemical sensors that we're talking about there. Optical gas detection is awesome. FLIR's led the way. EPA actually suggests that you use them for emissions monitoring on an oil well for their methane compliance. We've used them for leak detection along the pipeline. I think you guys have done some work with it as well with some of your customers. All ours was response-based and industry-based, but we use those optical gas imagers all the time in the oil and gas industry. So pipeline, refineries, production facilities, storage facilities, things like that. And they're great. You don't experience the lag issues that you have here, and you're not relying on airflow.
Right. You don't have to necessarily get into the sample in the middle of it, or at least, I mean, you have to get close, but not in, you don't have to fly in and actually sample the air. So that definitely takes the road problem out of the.
To me, the path forward is the path that the EPA started back in 2000, is before BP, because we used them on BP, but called the Aspect program. So you can anybody watching can Google the EPA Aspect, and they basically had an entire lab on board an aircraft. And one of the instruments that they use is called FTIR. It's Fourier Transform Infrared, is the way the technology works. And you're basically shooting a laser down and looking for what reflects back. Trying too much in the weeds there. That works great. Optical imaging works great, in which they've integrated into Aspect. All those technologies work good. It's just nobody wants to go that path because it's so expensive. The economy of scale is so low.
Right.
You're not saving any money. You're talking about 6 figures to get into FTIR. And then, so you're going to mount a 6-figure sensor on a drone, and then, oops, I crashed it. Nobody wants to do that. Right? And that's why I'm saying we need to get all the right people in the right room and have this conversation so that we can drive that economy of scale to where people can actually afford technology.
It makes a ton of sense. Let's talk about rail for a minute. Obviously, HAZMAT is a big part of rail. But talk to me a little bit about what else you guys are using it for, both in the testing side and what they're using it for, drones in general, out in the field on the rails.
I'll start with a little drone industry plug here for everybody. So with the coronavirus and the pandemic and everything that's going on now, a lot of the people that do testing out here that we do testing for aren't able to come out. And we're talking pretty intense testing and stuff that we do. We have a crash wall that's just right outside my window here, where we take a 300,000 pound ram car and hit different types of tanks with it to see if they'll puncture at different forces. So the last test we did was 18 miles an hour, 300,000 pounds going into a type of refrigerated tank. But
you guys don't get to have any fun out there, do you?
No. Sometimes we actually get to crash trains like
into each other. Yeah, love it.
I joke around. It's like I crash trains, I set stuff on fire, I blow stuff up and fly drones. Where was this during career day in high school? No, I love my job. But so all these customers like to be here so that they can give input, so they can watch the test, so we can make sure the integrity of the test, having witnesses and having people review it is always a good idea in science. But we can't do that, right? Coronavirus says nobody can travel, and people that can travel are afraid to travel, so nobody wants to come out and do these tests. But we still have to do these tests, right? We still have to keep people safe. This type of transportation is occurring every single day. We have to fix all these problems that we're faced with. So along comes drones, and I don't mean to plug anybody in particular, but we've been using DroneSense to provide like a virtual telepresence to people so that they can actually be on site when the crash is done live. It's fixed all the problems. And as a matter of fact, a lot of them are talking about just not coming out here anymore and just using that live stream instead because of the money that it'll save the taxpayers.
Hey, you're not going to find a bigger fan of DroneSense than me, so you can plug all you want. So they're great partners.
Try to not turn this into a fanboy or a bashing contest or anything, but
no, it's
the day. And we've also done we have some tests that we've done like Facebook Live and YouTube live streams, but that's pretty rare. We've done a few like Zoom meetings like we're doing now, or go-to meetings that we've streamed it from. But with those, I just bring up DroneSense and share my screen.
Right. Yeah.
But it has saved the day. So now, live, just like we're doing now, people can type comments. The same thing happens during all these high-end tests that we're doing. They're all top secret and all this. Now, only the people that we want to view the stream can view the stream, and they can give me directions, which they can't do on site. I can't have somebody or a whole group of people looking over my shoulder while I'm trying to operate a drone during a crash test, or flying LiDAR, or doing all the things that we do out here. Well, now they can, right? I can see it right there on my screen. I can see exactly what they want me to do. Hey, can you fly over here and give me this angle? Can you watch this? Can we switch over to a GoPro feed and see it up close? We can do all those things now. So it's kind of displacing the live testing overall, but drones have saved the day in that respect. Everybody's been super excited about getting to see the drone feed firsthand.
No, that's awesome. So you were talking about the crash wall. You guys are slamming stuff into each other. What other kinds of cool stuff are you guys doing with the on the rails, either there or out in the field?
So we did, one of the big things that I can talk about is we did a side-by-side study of traditional surveying methods versus drone-mounted LiDAR. And Avian, which I know has changed forms as of late, but we partnered with Avian, and then it was a research project that we had internally for the railroads as well. So we took traditional Trimble surveying equipment, and a frog on the rail, looks like this. We did surveys with that, and then we would move it in small 1/2 inch, 2 inch increments each time. And we did it as a blind test. So basically what would happen is we would fly it, and we'd create a LiDAR model of it, and then we would drive away, turn all the radios off, drive away, and go hide off over the hill. But we'd use all of our heavy equipment around the site to make modifications to that, little defects in the rail. As soon as they would drive out and get us, we turn our radios back on, drive back out, and then we would fly it again. And then in post, we processed them completely separately. We had one team that didn't talk to the other team. Both processed our data separately. And in a lot of cases, we were within 1/2 inch of the measurements that they took with the traditional surveying equipment. And this was with we did nothing together. This was a completely blind, off-the-shelf test where we did nothing to correct either set of data. And we're within 1/2 inch flying a drone around, and it takes 8-9 minutes to do the entire survey of this entire rail corridor versus these guys having to get out there with a tape measure. And
yep.
So, I mean, it's tape measure, set a point. I mean, it's basically RTK as you go every time you make a measurement. And we were doing it much faster with the drones. And so we've made suggestions now to all the people that were involved about how to make that data more accurate, how we can take the two pieces of data, merge them together, and create an algorithm that creates a correction factor for the LiDAR. And we're thinking we could probably get down in the 2 centimeter range, maybe 3 centimeter range.
Yeah, LiDAR is one of those technologies that totally blows my mind, because I know, Dan, who works with us, did a side-by-side test like that, I think on a landfill. And it took the traditional survey like 2 weeks to do the landfill, and Dan did it in like a half a day or something. And it was like 2% difference, and his was actually, I think, more accurate, which is so crazy. So LiDAR, but that's another technology too that you're, talk about economies of scale. I mean, it's very expensive to get into LiDAR. Making sure that you have the right sensors and IMUs and GPS and the right data processing and all that stuff. The training, yeah, exactly. So
the learning curve looks like Mount Everest.
It's like mapping on steroids. So
but it showed a whole lot of promise. We're hoping to move forward with it after this whole coronavirus thing is over with, and get it hopefully even below that 2 to 3 centimeter range that we were looking at.
Have you gotten, this is a very important question, have you gotten permission for me yet to drive a train the next time I come out there?
You don't drive a train. There's no steering wheel.
Whatever. Whatever. Make it go.
Operate a locomotive?
Operate a locomotive? Yeah, exactly.
We'll talk about that offline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that sounds good. You also mentioned too, when we were kind of talking about this live program, that you're doing a lot of collaboration with students as well too. So talk to me about that a little bit.
For
the STEM projects where you guys are mentoring them.
Yeah. So TTCI actually sponsors the local Pueblo. We're in Pueblo, Colorado, by the way. I don't think I ever mentioned that. We're about 30 miles north of Pueblo, Colorado, out in the middle of nowhere. But we actually sponsor the local STEM programs. They call them SEEBs, is what their program's called. But it's a for everybody else in the world, it's a STEM program. But basically what we do is we take real projects and we give them assignments and create teams and allow them to do real world projects as part of a team. So that when they graduate their senior year, they've already got project experience under their belt. Real, not make believe crap that you read in a book. These are actual projects that we're assigned. And now there's a tremendous amount of oversight, obviously, for a test like that. But it's been a very successful program. And the one that we just did was a water reclamation project for SERTC. Trying to find ways to recycle all the water that we use. And we have a pretty rudimentary way of doing it now, but we're just looking for a better way to go about it. So we set them up with project managers and assigned teams. They had to not only solve the problem, but write all the technical reports that were required, all the environmental reports. They had to consult different state agencies, different environmental agencies to make sure that all this stuff was legit and legal. And so it took the entire school year, and they come back and they created a great water reclamation system for us. Their driving force was efficiency and economy. They met all of our goals. But a big part of that project was drone usage, was surveying with drones and doing photogrammetry is what we were using.
Yeah.
So that they could map the scene and then model how the civil engineering side of the house would create all of this. And the kids had a blast. 2 of them went off and got their Part 107s as part of the project. The teachers went and got their Part 107 at the beginning of the project. Now these kids are not only going to step out with civil engineering experience, drone experience, they're also stepping out with their commercial drone license. So
that's awesome.
That's how most of our projects work. They walk away with something that will help them in their professional careers. And a lot of the kids that didn't think they were in the SEEPS program, and everybody's been in high school once, right? You're so doubtful. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Everybody's telling me this and telling me that. Well, actually doing a project solidified their desire to get into engineering, or, made them think, maybe it's not this field of engineering that I want, but I really like that, the water reclamation part of this whole thing and figuring out how to reclaim water and save the environment. They learned a lot out of it. So we're pretty excited about that project.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And, it's one of those things where this was not a career, drone pilot was not a career before, 5 years ago. So
right.
We're all trying to kind of pay it forward and get people interested in the technology. It's so cool that you guys are able to do that. So if you guys, for those of you guys who are watching, definitely when you get the opportunity, when things start to open back up, look for some classes out there at SERTC, because you go down to Pueblo, have a nice dinner, and then you drive 25 miles into the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden there's this facility on the hill, and there's all kinds of cool stuff out there. So
put in perspective, we're further away from town than the Pueblo Chemical Depot that stores our nation's stockpile of mustard agent.
Oh yeah, well, and if you take the wrong turn, you end up with some you take a right instead of a left, you end up at the chemical depot and get some pretty strange looks from the
from the AR-15.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Not a place you want to accidentally end up. So, well, I've got about 8 other things I wanted to talk to you about, but I don't think I can actually talk about any of them. Neither can you. So I think we may have to leave it at that for now. But do you, anything else that you wanted to talk about while we've got you?
I almost forgot people were watching this. I thought we were just chatting.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what's so great about the Skyfire Live, where it's just a chat with friends.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, the big thing I want to encourage people to do, from my perspective, and that I don't think I see enough of, is collaborate. Get together. And I know this is a very competitive environment. And any of you guys that are members of some of the Facebook groups for drones, that there's a lot of people in there that have really bad attitudes, and it can really turn you off to helping each other. But all the amazing stuff that we get to do out here, and that I get to do personally, it's always a result of some type of collaboration. The collaboration between SERTC and Skyfire, for example, has led to a whole lot of stuff. The collaboration between our site and some of the government agencies, the collaboration between SERTC and local departments has led to a lot of excitement. And I want everybody to do that. Everybody is more powerful when you team up and actually work together and not against each other. And it not only helps you, but it helps the community perception of what's going on out there, especially from a public safety standpoint. We can't be that competitive. We're naturally competitive people in public safety, but with programs like this that are always in the limelight, find ways to work with industry, find ways to work with other agencies, and the force multiplier. And now you can do way more than you could. Southern Manatee is a great example of that. Southern Manatees, they're kind of the epitome of working with somebody to make things that you didn't think were possible work. Who would ever thought that you'd be able to get a drone from DJI and then blow it up?
I know.
My job all of a sudden, right?
We all watched that video like, man, I wish I could have blown that drone up.
I want to blow drones up. I want to blow those up.
You
might be able to do it with an M80.
Yeah.
But they're getting to do all this amazing stuff because they're open to collaboration. They're open to allowing other people to come in and work together with them, not against them. They're not competing for, you look at me. It's all just, let's see what we can advance in this industry. And like anybody else, you're going to have stumbling blocks. And if you're a very public facing agency like that, everybody gets to see your stumbling blocks. So accept that risk, but it's all good. The only failure that's a true failure is the one you don't learn from.
Yeah.
Get out there and collaborate. kind of the big message I'd like everybody to walk away with is, drop the pride, find somebody that can help you do what you want to do, and you'd be blown away at the things that you get to do with a drone.
No, well, it's awesome. And I mean, I think that's exactly why, we're doing these Facebook Lives, because, we're certainly not the experts on HAZMAT or rail or mapping or anything like that. We just bring people together, and we've had so many great collaborations with you guys and some of the other guests that we've had on here. So that's why we like to kind of bring everybody in, talk about what what you're experts at, and we'll kind of step back and let you do your thing. So, well, awesome, man. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you guys are busy out there. And unless there's any questions from the audience, which I don't see any at the moment right here, I will go ahead and wrap it up for today. So as I said, thank you so much to Brandon Morris and the folks at SERTC for always being a great partner with us and collaborator. And we will go ahead and wrap this up for today. Get our awesome theme music going here again. Come on, man. You want to dance.
That's not what I want to do to that music.
And that's our cue. All right. Thank you guys again for watching. If you have any questions, give us a shout on Facebook, email, Instagram, Twitter. Still not TikTok. I'm working on it. But thank you guys again. Brandon, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.